Throughout the 6 years Fortnite has been out, we've had 19 FNCSs, with the first one being Trios back in Season X, over 4 years ago. So today, we're going to take a look back to see exactly where those first FNCS champions are nowadays. The first region we need to take a look at has to be EU, with the champs being Aqua, Stompy, and Schinken. This trio formed shortly after the World Cup since they all spoke German, and quickly they started popping off. And before anybody knew it, after getting 4 top 5s out of the 6 games in the grand finals, with 2 of those being a win, they easily became the first FNCS champs. But what happened to them afterwards? Now, interestingly enough, that very next season in Squads FNCS, they would end up not making the grand finals. So after a bad performance, if they weren't already going to split up, they had to, because next season in Chapter 2 Season 2 was going to be duos. However, Aqua and Stompy did decide to play together, and this worked out pretty well with them getting 4th in the grand finals. However, after this season, Aqua would never play an FNCS with them again. But as I'm sure you all know, he would go on to win 2 more FNCS titles and place 3rd in another 2, totaling his earnings to just shy of $2.2 million. Sadly though, in September of 2023, he would announce he was officially quitting the game, with a big reason for this being his tendinitis that was on and off again for the last few years. But with that being said, we don't know if him quitting is actually true or not, since he did come back to play some other tournaments in the OG season, and he's still been hopping on the game now and again. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see until FNCS returns. But somebody who did return after taking a break was Stompy. After playing with Aqua, he went on to get 3 more top 10s in FNCS. However, he would end up taking a little bit of a break after not performing too well for a couple seasons in a row. But he did play the most recent Solo Victory Cup, so it seems like he might be returning to the game. But even if he doesn't, he's already earned himself over $600,000 from the game, so he's doing pretty good for himself. Now, Stompy might be returning, but Schinken has quit for good. After getting that initial win in Season X, he hasn't made an FNCS Grand Finals since, with his last tournament being in June of 2022. And after quitting, he's been pretty silent on social media, besides posting a couple pictures on Instagram. So it seems like he's just done with the game and is now enjoying his life after making over $300,000. We started this video off with the best region in the game, so now it's only right to switch to the next best, with OCE. This one will be quick though, since there's not much known about these players, and I guarantee 99% of you haven't heard of them before. And those players are Minkin, Hilo, and Goncho. All of them started making a name for themselves after placing quite well throughout the World Cup qualifiers. And they ended up forming together in week 2 of that Season X FNCS. And unlike many people who would go on to win an FNCS, they didn't have any really good performances throughout those qualifiers, and just barely placed well enough to make it to the heats. And again, in those heats, they barely made it to the grand finals, placing 11th out of the 16 teams that made it. But just like Aqua's trio, when it came down to the finals, they placed top 5 4 times. However, since then, their placements only went downhill, with their best being Hilo getting a 21st in the Chapter 2 Season 4 FNCS. Nowadays, Minkin and Hilo still play the game and compete sometimes, but neither of them have played an FNCS since the Grand Royale. And for Gonzo, he ended up quitting the game after the Solo FNCS Invitationals, only 2 seasons after winning. Let's now go back to players that you'll most likely recognize over on NA East with Zexro, Young Calc, and Macwood. Their win was extremely close compared to others in this video, with it coming down to just one singular point. And afterwards, they actually almost became the first people to win back-to-back FNCSs, but unfortunately, they finished in 2nd place. After these good performances, they continued to play together up until Chapter 2 Season 4's FNCS, where they'd finally split, even though they finished 7th that season. But regardless, let's see what happened to Zexro first. He would actually end up quitting Fortnite pretty soon after that FNCS with Macwood and Calc, only playing 1 more season, with his last tournament being the Epic World Cup in March of 2021. Now, even though he quit Fortnite, he did continue with his streaming career after, moving on to play games like Valorant, and he was averaging around 150 viewers each stream. We would also see him return to Fortnite back in July of 2023 to play FNCS with Unknown Army. But during this time, something very unexpected ended up happening, and that was him getting a huge boost in viewership. And it wasn't because of Fortnite, but actually from Only Up. If you remember the Only Up craze, everyone was obsessed with this game's speedruns, and for a period of time, Zexro was actually one of the best out there, even holding the world record at one point, with that video getting 2 million views. But since then, he's returned to playing mainly Valorant again, and continues to stream quite often. So for now, he's living a pretty good life with the over $600,000 he's made from the game. Now, just like Zexro, Calc would also go down a very similar road. After that Season 4 FNCS, he would continue to play, but wouldn't make any more Grand Finals. And after the Grand Royale, he would end up leaving the game, moving on to Valorant. And he was actually pretty good, reaching top 100 Radiant at one point. Now, we would see a brief return a few months after quitting the game to play FNCS, but again, just like Zexro, he would leave. Nowadays, he occasionally streams here and there, but mainly just gets into beefs with people on Twitter. Now, Calc and Zexro's Fortnite career weren't too good after that win, but Macwood's definitely was. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to get that second win, but still managed to get some very impressive placements, getting 4 more top 10s in FNCS. And he still continues to qualify for pretty much every single Grand Finals. So it'll be interesting to see where his Fortnite career continues to take him. But so far, he's earned almost $400,000. Speaking of NA East, we gotta do NA West now, with the winners being J-Rose, Dog, and Boobies. Yes, that's his actual name. Now, even though they did win, they would end up splitting with each other right after. And Booby's career would end up being pretty short, with him only playing up until Chapter 2 Season 4 before quitting. And a big reason for him quitting was the fact that he didn't even make a single FNCS heats afterwards. Now, his career might have been short, but Dog and J-Rose's career has been extremely long. Dog went on to get 5 more top 10 finishes in FNCS, even playing with players like Ree early on. But most interestingly, he actually ended up switching regions during Chapter 3, now playing on Asia servers. And he actually went on to win the FNCS Last Chance qualifier, which meant he qualified to the FNCS Global Championship this year. Unfortunately, they would end up getting 70th, but qualifying there in the first place is still pretty impressive. With J-Rose, he got 2 more top 10s, but would end up taking a break in May of this year. However, he once again returned to playing tournaments this chapter. I talked about Dog switching to Asia servers, so let's go over there now, with the winners Rizart, Muffin, and Rory. After the season they won, in squads they went on to place second before having to split because of the game mode switch. Muffin would end up getting another win in Season 4's FNCS and then get another 3 top 10 finishes, becoming one of the best players on Asia. Now, I'm not sure if he did end up quitting or not since he hasn't played any tournaments this season, but regardless, he'll still go down as one of Asia's best. Rizart has gotten 2 more top 10s since, but recently he's fallen off pace with those placements. However, he still plays, so maybe we'll see a comeback, but with Rory, that probably won't happen. In Season 4 FNCS, he ended up winning with Muffin, and afterwards got 4 more top 10s. However, he would end up quitting back in September of 2022. Now, so far, at least one player from every trio has ended up quitting the game, but for our next region, they're still going strong, and that's the Middle East with Fahad, Yonks, and NM7. When the FNCS game mode switched to duos, Fahad and Yonks would end up playing together, and when trios came around, they ended up finding a different third. But they did pretty well, getting a solid 7th, 6th, and 4th in Grands. On top of that, Yonks got 7th in the Solo All-Star Showdown. But during this time, NM7 popped off even more. He placed 3rd in duos, 5th in the Solo Invitationals, 3rd in Season 5's Trio FNCS, and 2nd in Season 6. But nobody was ready for what was about to happen that next season. After over a year and a half of not playing with each other, they all came back together and decided to trio once again. And this decision would pay off massively. In their first season back together, they ended up winning FNCS, and in the Grand Royale, they managed to get a 3rd place. Sadly though, they would have to split up again because going into Chapter 3, FNCS was now duos. So as expected, Fahad and Yonks would end up playing together again. And since then, they've gotten another 3 top 10 finishes in the Grand Finals. NM7 on the other hand would end up playing with multiple different duos, but still was placing well, getting 2 more top 10s. And he has actually placed 3rd in this most recent duo Cash Cup. Now last but certainly not least, we have Brazil, with the champions being Leo, Kurtz, and Wishy. And just like the Middle East winners, all of them still play till this day. After their win, they almost went back to back, getting a 2nd place in squads. However, after this, they would all go their separate ways. Leo and Kurtz did try duoing in Season 2, but decided to play with someone else in the end. Leo would end up getting a 4th in the Solo FNCS Invitationals, 6th in Trio FNCS, and 7th in another Trio FNCS. But since then, he hasn't managed to get any more top 10 finishes in the Grand Finals. It also seems like he isn't really into the game as much as he was before, since he didn't even compete in the most recent FNCS. However, he still continues to play Cash Cups today. Wishy would end up making a few more grand finals after their second in squads, but none of them were super good placements. And throughout most of chapter 3 and 4, it seemed like he pretty much quit, only playing a couple of tournaments here and there. But after competing in the Last Chance Major, it looked like it motivated him to play even more. So now it seems like he's back and grinding again. Now for our very last player, Kurtz. After initially splitting up, he didn't have any really good performances. Until the Stark season, where he ended up pulling through with another win in FNCS. And since then, he's gone on to get a 5th, 2nd, 7th, and 9th in the grand finals. Now unfortunately, he hasn't been able to get another top 10 since chapter 2. But who knows, with his skill, we could see him back up on the leaderboard very soon. Thank you all so much for watching till the end of the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your days. Peace out.